Welcome to Guide to IELTS. In this video, we'll write a formal letter in response to this IELTS General Training Writing Task 1 question. The question is from Cambridge IELTS Book 16. Mrs. Barrett, an English-speaking woman who lives in your town, has advertised for someone to help her in her home for a few hours a day next summer. Write a letter to Mrs. Barrett. In your letter, suggest how you could help her in her home, say why you would like to do this work, explain when you will and will not be available. The first step for any writing task, read and understand the question. The question type is under the category of applying for a job and responding to an advertisement. Interestingly, if we look at this part of the question, which says start with Dear Mrs. Barrett, it seems like a semi-formal letter. Semi-formal letters are written to those whom we know personally but we do not know well. So the tone of the letters is a little formal or kind of neutral, but the tone is not too formal. However, this letter is a formal letter because it is in response to an advertisement. It is addressed to a person the writer doesn't know at all. Usually, formal letter questions in IELTS have start with Dear Sir or Madam written here. So this is another good example of why you shouldn't jump into writing without going through the question thoroughly. In any letter question, there is a story. Understand it and then add to it using your imagination. From the question, I get that this lady is from my town. There is no mention of how far she stays. It could be a few minutes walk from my place or it could be an hour's drive. An advertisement is mentioned, but it is not mentioned where it was. I will have it clear in my mind where I came across the advertisement before I start writing the letter. It could be a newspaper, a magazine, a website. It could even be a notice board at a community center. Another point, help is required at the lady's home and it is for a few hours a day. So more or less daily. I could mention that I need weekends off or maybe one day a week off. Another point mentioned is next summer. There is no mention of exactly when next summer or for how long. I could write that my summer break is starting in a couple of weeks and that is when I can join. Or I could write that the summer break is in 2 months. So letter questions are like a story. Some parts of it are given, those you cannot change. But you can add other information using your imagination to answer the 3 points that are given in the question. If I say in this letter, I got to know from a neighbor or a friend that you're looking for help, my answer would be wrong because it specifically says that this is in response to an advertisement. That has to be my source of information of the job opening. Second thing that I do is thinking of 2 things to write about each of the 3 points. If you're not able to think of 2 things for each, that's okay, so long as the answer doesn't require more than 1 thing to be written. An example of this. If the first point had been, suggest the ways in which you could help her, that would have required more than 1 because ways, which is a plural word, is used. Similarly, if the second one had been, give reasons why you would like to work, more than 1 reason is asked for. But the way this question is written, it's okay even if I write just 1 thing in answer to each. However, if I write just 1 thing in answer to each, reaching the 150 word threshold could be a problem. Let's now talk about how to generate ideas, how to think about what to write and think quickly. As I mentioned, we start thinking of 2 things for each of the points. I'll actually give you ideas for more than 2 things, but for my writing, I'll stick to maximum of 2 each. Now let's look at the answer for first one. How could I help this person at home? Because it is specified that the help is required at home, I'm immediately thinking of household chores or domestic chores. These refer to the regular or daily work that is required in a house. It includes cleaning, whether it is mopping or vacuuming, or thorough cleaning or heavy-duty cleaning of something, such as cleaning of bathrooms or certain cabinets. Household chores also include doing laundry, doing the dishes, ironing, cooking, even watering of plants, mowing the lawn, gardening. These are all included in household chores. These are a lot of terms. I'll use a few of these terms in my writing and they'll add to my vocabulary or lexical resource score. Also, as you read the question, imagine a situation how you can help someone in their home. Keep it simple. You don't need long lists, just a couple of things. Household chores also include grocery shopping, but there's another phrase for it, that is to run errands. I could write to Mrs. Barrett that I can run errands for you such as grocery shopping or picking up your dry cleaning. If I do choose to write these, I'll make sure they won't be the first thing I write in the answer to this point. It would be an add-on thing. The reason for this is because the question mentions help in her home. This is help outside the home, even though it is part of household chores. So this cannot be my main answer. If the question had not specifically mentioned helping in her home, I could have mentioned things like driving her to a doctor's appointment, doing some secretarial work such as typing for her. I could have imagined that Mrs. Barrett is a writer and I am doing typing work for her. But I will not do any of this here. I'll focus on just helping her with her household chores. The second point is, say why you would like to do this work. Simple answer, to make extra money. This actually brings me to who I am or who is writing this letter. Many times when you write letters such as this one, you have to imagine yourself at a different age, at a different stage of life. The age I am at today, why would I want to take up something like this? So when I'm generating ideas for this letter, I think of myself as an 18 to 20-year-old college student, an undergrad student, or I could be slightly younger, a high school student. So in the letter, I would say I'm doing this to make money. I could mention that I want to take up this work during my summer break to save for my college fees. I could mention that I want to buy a new laptop, that's why I'm doing it. Another point I can mention is that I'm completely free during my summer break and this will be a constructive use of my time. And as I'm thinking of this point, I'm thinking of the conjunction not only but also. I'll try to use it when writing about this. Another reason for why could be that I live close by. I could write that I live a stone's throw away from your place or just a 5-minute walk from your place. So I can make the most of my free time because I won't waste any time commuting. Any phrases or idioms that come to my mind as I'm generating these ideas, I make a note of because I would want to use them in my letter. The third point says when you are available and when you are not available. Make sure you mention both specifically. If you just mention when you are available and not the other one very clearly, it could be considered to be an incomplete answer. So I'll mention a day or two when I'm not available, maybe the weekend. Other days I could say that I'm available at all hours, or I can mention specific hours when I'm busy elsewhere. Now we start writing. Whenever you are writing a letter in response to an advertisement, a good beginning line is, I'm writing in response to your advertisement, followed by what date it appeared or which newspaper or magazine or website it appeared in. There are other ways to start this letter. You could start with, I'd like to express my interest in, or I'm writing to express my interest in. Or, this is in response to the advertisement you have placed in, followed by where the advertisement appeared. Anyway, I'm starting with, I'm writing in response to your advertisement in the local newspaper seeking part-time assistance during the summer months. I'm John Smith, first-year undergraduate student at the Tutelage University. This last sentence is not necessary. You can choose not to write it. Had the question said introduce yourself, then it would have been mandatory. The next paragraph, which would respond to the first point. The advert mentioned that you're looking for someone to lend a hand with household chores and other errands. Throughout this writing, I'll keep making a list of the phrases, idioms, and synonyms that I'm using which I feel you should take a note of. Anyway, now that I've mentioned household chores, I'll just give details of a couple of things I can help with. I'm willing to assist in day-to-day tasks around the house, including cleaning, mowing the lawn, and doing dishes. Moreover, I own a car and therefore, if required, I can run errands for you, such as getting groceries or picking up your dry cleaning. Notice that we have used very few of the ideas we had thought of when generating ideas. When you sit down to write any letter, think of a couple of things for each point and start writing. You don't need to have too many ideas before you start. The next paragraph now, responding to why. I'm eager to take up this part-time assignment owing to the spare time I'll have on hand during the summer break. And I thought of using not only but also here, so here it is. Not only will it keep me occupied constructively, but I'll also be able to save for my college fees. What is more, I reside only a stone's throw away from your place, hardly a 5-minute walk. So I can make the most of my free time if I'm working there. Last point about when I am or am not available. During the weekdays, I have a study group to attend during the evenings. Therefore, I'll be available anytime between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. As far as Saturday is concerned, I'm open to any time slot. I'd want one day off every week. I'd prefer Sundays off, although I don't mind taking some other day off instead. And if I'd wanted to write that I'm available at all hours during the weekdays, I could have written, during weekdays or from Monday to Friday, I do not have any prior commitments, hence I'll gladly adjust my schedule to accommodate your needs. However, during weekends, I'd only be available during the day as I would want my evenings free. I can just end this with, thank you very much for your time and consideration. I look forward to hearing from you. This is a good ending whenever you are responding to an advertisement or whenever you are applying for a job. I'd follow this with, yours sincerely, John Smith. Instead of this last one about thank you very much for your time and consideration, I could have added a few more details. For example, I'd welcome the opportunity to meet you and discuss the details with you. I hope I'll get a positive reply to my application. I'd appreciate a prompt reply so as to enable me to plan my summer break well in time. Again, ending it with, yours sincerely, John Smith. I hope this helped you. All the very best.